Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, Rivers State government makes huge progress on the disarmament of militants as hundreds of repentant armed men are granted amnesty. Nigerian Army continues its search for terrorists in the northeast to arrest 21 suspected members of Boko Haram. Ambrose Ali University, Epoma, Edo State holds its 20th convocation ceremony in grand style, honors Channel Television's chairman with doctorate degree in business administration. And the African National Congress chief whip goes for President Jacob Zuma's job, asks him to resign. We begin tonight in Ikwere local government area of Rivers State, where assorted arms and ammunition have been recovered from hundreds of self-confessed cultists. The governor's special advisor on Amnesty, Mr. Kenneth Chinda, attributes this move to the Amnesty program of the state government, which he says has achieved appreciable success so far. Mr. Chinda made this known when he led a team to receive weapons surrendered by repentant cultists. Our correspondent, Emmanuel Irei, reports.
Ikwere local government area of Rivers State, known for its rich arable land, is said to have been under siege from activities of cultists over the years. That may soon become history, with the amnesty extended by the Rivers State government to cultists in the area. Leaders and elders of Ikwere land assembled for the program. The repentant cultists announced their arrival with a lot of sound and fury, a situation that almost degenerates into rowdiness. It takes the intervention of the caretaker committee chairman of the local government area to restore order.
You might not understand the importance of today's program. The international community, everybody all over the world is watching what is happening in the local government today.
Afterwards, one after the other, leaders and members of the various gangs present what is supposed to be their weapons and appear to denounce the alliances under the falling rain. However, the caretaker committee chairman is obviously not impressed with the so-called arms.
The pranks a lot of you are playing. What you brought here, you said is the weapon you'll be using, no problem. But know it too, that same one that you're hiding at your backyard, whether you have been granted amnesty or not, in our law, that's what they call unlawful possession of firearms. Since you did not bring it out here today, if security officers come to your house tomorrow and find weapons in your house, you will be punished severely in accordance with our law.
The governor's special advisor on Amnesty sounds a note of warning to anyone thinking of reneging on the deal.
Having accepted amnesty today, do not go back to cultism and criminality. Do not go back to kidnapping. Do not go back to armed robbery. Do not go back to pipeline vandalism.
If you do, the amnesty we have proclaimed on you today shall be cancelled, and the full weight of the law shall descend upon you.
And to drive home the seriousness of the matter, elders of the community make pronouncements at the gates.
Because of hunger, some youths decided to indulge in crime, kidnapping, robbery, just to fend for themselves. So please, we are begging the governor that he should look into our case. Ikwere local government is a dry land, that should bring things so that the youth can involve in one or two things that will give them money. Empowerment.
For these youths, many say sustaining that new and productive lifestyle is the next challenge they hope the government and other relevant agencies will help them deal with. Emmanuel Irei, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Army has arrested at least 21 suspected terrorists in some states of the northeast as it continues Operation Lafia Dole. This was made known by the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Usman. He says the raid on suspected terrorists' hideouts, especially in Borno State, is aimed at ending cases of livestock rustling, which serves as another means of funding terrorist activities. The military also warns those collaborating with Boko Haram terrorists to desist from such acts or face the wrath of the law. In the meantime, the public has been advised to report any known or suspected activity that could threaten the nation's unity to relevant security operatives. The Nigerian Army is introducing humanitarian dimension to the plight of the IDPs by deploying officers and men of the Education Corps to teach in various IDP camps in the northeast. The theatre commander of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Lucky Rabo, made this known while presenting instructional materials in Yola, the Adamawa state capital.
It's another day at the temporary place of abode for the internally displaced persons in Adamawa State, northeast Nigeria. For those of them in schools within the camp, the educational advancement has caught the attention of the Nigerian military with the donation of these learning materials.
So when the theater commander came in August, they saw that there was need to add teaching and learning aids to them and materials. That's why he has supported them. You know, when you increase and improve their knowledge, they will not go back to Boko Haram. So it's very important. It's a way of winning the hearts and minds of the people. There's improvement. If I had been here earlier, you know that they are being refined daily. The last time we came, they were not like this. And now when we came, you were there when I asked them some questions, and they were able to answer. So it is improving, and we know that you continue to get better and better.
This is very significant. You know, there's no learning environment that can thrive without learning materials. That has been a little bit a shortfall in operations. The gap has been existing. We keep appealing, and gratefully, we are now witnessing an occasion where the military is coming in through the Nigerian Army Education Corps to fill in that gap.
The materials, which include writing books, textbooks, pencils, writing boards, markers and more, is in addition to the teaching services which the Education Corps of the military has been rendering.
They are learning well, and those are our militaries that military education come in. They are giving them good learning experience and also discipline. Formerly they are just somehow, but now the boys are so calm, so quiet.
On behalf of the theater commander, Major General Liu Irabo.
All three IDP schools in Adamawa will have a share of this gesture from the military.
As part of efforts to curb the activities of pirates and other criminals in the maritime environment, the Nigerian Navy has increased regional and national vigilance in the Gulf of Guinea. That's according to the Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas. He said this during a naval exercise codenamed Operation Sare Teku. This is aimed at stemming the wave of attacks on shipping and other maritime activities.
Globally and in the Gulf of Guinea, we have started experiencing some commendable decline in the rates of attacks out there. Of course, this is attributable to the various strategies that have been adopted either at the regional level or at national levels towards containing these threats. For us here, by the time Sare Teku 1 was set up, between January and April, we recorded well over 40 attacks at sea, piracy and robbery attacks. You recall I did state here when I was relaunching the second phase that we're poised based on the successes then to further reduce the incidences.
We continue our focus on security with a conversation now with Channels Television's in-house data analyst, Mr. Babajide Ogusanwo. Great to have you again on the news at 10. Are we okay? You have two guns on the table. They're not live, are they?
Oh yes, it's all to be able to clearly understand where we are with Boko Haram. Are we achieving success, and how are we going to be successful in unlocking the minds of those girls from all the criminal activities they've been through in all of these days.
So would you say we've been successful in the war against Boko Haram?
So it all depends on how we want to manage and how we want to define success. How we want us to define success first is our success in being able to quickly unlock their thoughts into new things. So there's going to be a vacuum right now, and we need to free up their minds and replace that vacuum with something. And I would suggest we use a lot of education. That's one way to look at it. But even if we look at how we've handled this Boko Haram situation, it reminds me of 3 decades ago when such similar violence had occurred then in Jimeta, Yola State under President Buhari. And he then visited the site of a lot of those religious uprisings. Then it wasn't called Boko Haram, it was called some renegade Muslim group that came up. But what we'll find out then is the attacks then used a lot of swords, and those wounded had lots of wounds based on machetes. Only 3 people, based on about 60 people that were wounded, had gunshot wounds. Here's what the report that we have based on the Global Terrorism Database, which accurately monitors deaths around the world due to terrorist attacks. They say that we've had 18,049 deaths due to Boko Haram between 2001, when the offensive started, and the end of last year. But here's what is interesting. They say that less than 8,000 of those deaths were due to bombs. They've said more than 8,000 were due to these 2 things. So here's what it means. If we are to look at it based on the weapons that are being used against in the fight against Boko Haram, we see a lot of terrorists using weapons. So we clearly need to kick off Operation Mop Up to be able to take out these guns off the arms of the terrorists. But if we look at it from 2010 to 2015, we'll see for the first time last year, we've seen a decline in deaths due to terrorism in Nigeria.
But it spiked in 2014.
It did spike in 2014, and that's where a lot of the concerns started from. So we've seen 5 consecutive years of rise in deaths due to Boko Haram attacks. But last year, for the first time, we've seen a decline. So clearly, based on the report from the Global Terrorism Database, we've seen success if we look at these figures. However, if we look at that, a lot of these Boko Haram attacks right now are not just based on bombs, they are based on weapons like this. So the government indeed needs to be able to mop up these weapons from the economy.
You spoke about the girls at the beginning, and one of the agenda that Boko Haram has is to stop Western education, especially the education of girls. So how well is the government doing in improving education of girls against what Boko Haram is already preaching?
The government seems to be doing quite a lot, but the challenge is quite a lot enough. We already know that families in Borno State, for instance, do not have sufficient money. So the evidence shows that for every 100 naira a family in Borno State has, 74 naira goes into food, which is even higher than the national average, and only 0.46% goes into education. So families clearly need more support from the government. We even see that in the evidence of students failing WAEC in Borno State. So we clearly need a lot of more investments from the government regarding attacks, regarding investments for families in Borno State.
Babajide, I'm so glad that those are not real guns that you brought into the studio.
Certainly. But we do need to mop up a lot of these guns that are in the hands of the terrorists. Always a pleasure having you join us
on the news at 10. Babajide Ogusowo, our in-house data analyst. Now, in part 2, after the break, major political parties jostle for the governorship seat in Anambra State ahead of the 2017 polls. We'll also have more discussions on security. Please join us again.